I sit cross-legged on the hardwood floor of my parents' Denver living room, surrounded by torn wrapping paper and the artificial pine scent of Christmas morning. My brother Marcus twirls his manicured fingers around a set of shiny Mercedes keys, the metal catching the twinkling lights from the tree as he bounces like a teenager instead of a 29-year-old man. I can't believe it, he squeals, bouncing on his toes. My own luxury ride. Dad beams at him with unfiltered pride, Mom clasping her hands beneath her chin like she's witnessing a miracle. The car sits in the driveway, a glossy black testament to parental devotion, complete with an enormous silver bow that probably cost more than what they spent on my entire Christmas. Meanwhile, I stare at the object in my lap, a plastic piggy bank shaped like a cartoon character from a children's show I outgrew 28 years ago. The price tag they forgot to remove reads $2.49. Open it, Mom urges, gesturing toward the small rubber stopper on the bottom. My fingers feel numb as I comply. Two crisp $1 bills flutter out like dying moths. It's the start of your future home fund, honey, Dad announces with a dismissive wave. You're always so responsible with money, not like some people. He winks at Marcus, who pretends to look offended. The silence stretches like taffy between us until Mom fills it. Marcus needs reliable transportation for his new music production clients. Those artistic types expect a certain image, you know. Marcus drops onto the couch beside me, his expensive cologne clouding my senses. Don't worry, sis, I'll drive you around whenever you need. He pats my knee with patronizing gentleness. Your little Honda must be on its last legs by now. The Honda that carried me through 9 hours of mountain passes yesterday. The Honda I paid off myself 4 years ago. The Honda that's more reliable than any relationship in this room. I can't breathe. 31 years of moments just like this one crystallize in my mind with perfect clarity. This isn't an anomaly, it's the pattern of my entire life. Just this morning, I had carefully wrapped their gifts. A leather messenger bag for Dad that cost 3 weeks' salary, the pearl necklace Mom had admired in a Boulder boutique window, the professional recording equipment Marcus had casually mentioned wanting, all purchased by setting aside a little from each paycheck for months. I'd rehearsed my announcement during the entire drive down from Fort Collins. Principal architect. The promotion I'd earned through nights and weekends of extra work, designing sustainable buildings that would stand for generations. I'd imagined their faces lighting up with pride, finally seeing me as something more than Marcus's responsible older sister. Maybe this Christmas will finally be different, I'd whispered to myself at each rest stop, at each gas station, at each mile marker. My hands tremble as I place the piggy bank on the coffee table. The plastic makes a hollow sound against the glass. Excuse me, I manage, my voice sounding like it belongs to someone else. Bathroom. I walk, don't run, up the familiar stairs, past the wall of family photos where Marcus's face dominates every frame. The bathroom door closes behind me with a soft click before I twist the lock. My reflection stares back at me, eyes too dry, face too composed. I press my palms against the cold marble counter, waiting for tears that won't come. The pressure builds in my chest instead, like concrete hardening around my lungs. People talk about heartbreak like it's abstract. It's not. I feel each chamber of my heart contracting painfully, blood struggling to push through narrowing vessels. My sternum aches like someone has pressed a knee against it. This is what dying feels like, I think, not dramatic, just diminishing. The night stretches endlessly as I lie awake in my childhood bedroom, listening to Marcus's laughter from downstairs as he and my parents plan his first road trip in the new car. The walls around me hold memories that now feel like evidence in a case I've been building unconsciously for decades. At 2:47 a.m., I finally sit up. The moonlight streaming through my window illuminates the room that was always meant to be temporary, neutral beige walls, basic furniture, nothing that screamed this child matters. Down the hall, Marcus's room remained a shrine to his interests. Music posters, expensive equipment, walls painted his favorite shade of blue because creative types need inspiring environments. I pack quickly, taking only what matters. The faded stuffed elephant my grandmother gave me, the photo album from college, the small wooden box containing my first architectural blueprint. The expensive gifts I've given them over the years stay where they are. They were never about gratitude anyway. The house is silent as I carry my suitcase down the stairs. My house key lies cold in my palm for a moment before I place it on the kitchen counter beside the coffee maker that will brew in 4 hours. They have made their choice. Now I'm making mine. As I load my Honda, muscle memory guides me through the motions I've performed thousands of times. But this feels different, final. The trunk closes with a soft thud that seems to echo through the neighborhood. Streetlights blur into watery halos as I navigate empty highways. The dashboard clock reads 3:58 a.m., Christmas morning. My windshield wipers battle against thickening snow while Bing Crosby croons about white Christmases from the radio. I twist the volume knob until his voice fades to silence. "Have yourself a merry little Christmas," I whisper to the empty passenger seat, my voice breaking on merry. The irony burns like acid. Through Denver's northern outskirts, my Honda's heater struggles against the December chill. 8 years old with 180,000 miles, this car carried me through college, first jobs, promotions. It never complained about mountain passes or tight parking spots. Unlike the gleaming Merced sitting in my parents' driveway with its ridiculous silver bow, my car earned its place in my life. Around 7, my phone buzzes against the center console. I glance down to see Mom's face lighting up the screen. Not "Are you safe?" or "Please come home." Just, "Did you remember to pay the heating bill for the cabin before you left Fort Collins?" The cabin they bought for weekend getaways that Marcus uses for Instagram photo shoots. A semi-truck passes, spraying slush across my windshield. For 4 terrifying seconds, I drive blind until the wipers clear enough space to see. My hands shake against the steering wheel as memories flood faster than the wipers can clear them away. 6th birthday, Marcus's superhero party with professional decorations, bounce house, and a 3-tier cake shaped like a rocket ship. 40 neighborhood kids in costume. My celebration the following year, grocery store sheet cake, 3 friends from first grade, party supplies from the dollar bin. "Your brother needs the social stimulation," Dad explained when I asked why. "You're more independent." Independent, their code for "you don't need us." High school graduation. Valedictorian. My carefully crafted speech about innovation and sustainable design. Empty seats in the family section because Marcus's garage band had a showcase at a local coffee shop. "We'll watch the recording," Mom promised. The DVD sat unwrapped on my dresser until I left for college. "Your brother needs the encouragement," Mom said. "You always succeed without our help." Without help, they're code for "you're on your own." College years flash before me as highway signs count down miles to the New Mexico border. Working 30 hours weekly at the campus library and tutoring center. Taking maximum course loads to graduate early. Stretching student loans and scholarships while Marcus explored artistic inspiration across South America on our parents' dime. "Your brother needs to find himself," Dad insisted during one of our rare phone calls. "You've always known exactly who you are." Known who I am, their code for "you don't deserve exploration." My phone buzzes again, Dad this time. I let it ring until voicemail catches it. The first hint of dawn lightens the eastern horizon as tears blur oncoming headlights into golden streaks. I pull onto the shoulder, hazards blinking, and press my forehead against the steering wheel. The patterns crystallize with sudden clarity. Dad controlling the money, withholding from me while bankrolling Marcus's every whim. Mom manipulating emotions, making me feel selfish for wanting even scraps of attention. The perfect system. One parent handling financial favoritism, the other maintaining emotional control. My phone rings again, not family this time. Jessica Martinez, my college roommate turned lifelong friend. "Where are you?" Her voice, warm and worried, fills the car through Bluetooth. "Somewhere in northern New Mexico," I answer. My voice sounds hollow, unrecognizable, heading south. "To where?" "I don't know." The line goes quiet for a moment. Then, "Come to Austin, stay with me. Family doesn't treat family like this." Jessica knows. She witnessed the evidence firsthand during college. The packages that arrived for me containing practical necessities, while Marcus received designer clothes and expensive equipment. The holiday breaks when I stayed in dorms because flying home was too expensive. the same years my parents took Marcus to Aspen and Barcelona. I can't impose. Stop, Jessica's voice turns firm. You've spent your whole life being the helper. Let someone help you for once. The words crack something open inside me. Help. Such a simple concept, yet foreign to my experience. In my family, help flows one direction toward Marcus, toward my parents, never toward me. Okay, I whisper, surprising myself. Text me your location every 2 hours. Drive safe. I'm making up the guest room. The call ends. I ease back onto the highway, wipers clearing fresh snow. For the first time since leaving Denver, my shoulders lower slightly from their defensive hunch. By 8:15 a.m., I cross the New Mexico state line. The Land of Enchantment welcome sign gleams in early sunlight. My phone screen shows 23 missed calls, 47 text messages. With deliberate motions, I turn off notifications from Mom, Dad, and Marcus. The silence feels weightier than any accusation. My stomach growls, reminding me I haven't eaten since yesterday's Christmas Eve dinner. A small roadside diner appears ahead, its neon, open sign a beacon in the morning light. I pull into the nearly empty parking lot. Inside, the warmth envelopes me like an embrace. Coffee-scented air, and the sizzle of breakfast on a distant grill. An older waitress with silver-streaked hair approaches with a coffee pot. Rough night, she asks, filling a mug without waiting for my answer. Her name tag reads Rosa. Rough life, I mutter, then feel immediately embarrassed by the melodrama. Rosa doesn't flinch. Honey, I've been serving coffee for 45 years. I know heartbreak when I see it. Family or boyfriend? Family. She nods, sliding a menu toward me. Blood makes you related. Love and respect make you family. Her weathered hand rests briefly on mine. The special's good today, comes with extra hash browns. I order the special and wrap my hands around the coffee mug. Rose's words echo as I watch snowflakes dissolve against the window glass. Blood makes you related. Love and respect make you family. For 31 years, I've been related to the Thompson family. Perhaps it's time to find out what being part of a real family feels like. The drive from New Mexico to Texas stretches longer than expected. Mountain highways give way to desert plains, then rolling hills dotted with oil derricks. Each mile marker represents another step away from the life I've known and toward something undefined but entirely mine. Jessica calls twice during the drive, not to check up but to share random thoughts. A funny billboard she saw, a memory from college, plans for dinner. Normal friendship conversation that requires nothing from me except presence. There's a breakfast taco place down the street from my apartment, she says during the second call. Fair warning, I'm feeding you nothing but Tex-Mex until you remember how to smile. I laugh, actually laugh, for the first time in 24 hours. I like Tex-Mex. Good, because I've already stocked up on ingredients for my famous enchiladas. And before you even think about it, you're not cooking or cleaning. You're recovering. Recovering, as if leaving family dysfunction is healing from an illness. Maybe it is. Austin welcomes me with late afternoon sunshine and the distant sound of live music drifting from downtown. Jessica's neighborhood feels alive. Families walking dogs, couples jogging, children riding bikes with training wheels. Life happening at a pace that allows for breathing. Her apartment complex sits nestled among live oak trees, their branches creating natural canopies over walkways. When I knock, Jessica opens the door immediately, as if she's been watching from the window. There she is, she says, pulling me into a hug that lasts exactly as long as I need it to. No performance, no agenda, just genuine care from someone who chose to love me. The guest room she's prepared feels like a sanctuary. Soft yellow walls, a reading chair by the window, fresh flowers on the nightstand. On the dresser, she's placed a small wrapped gift. Just something small, she says when I look at her questioningly. Open it later, after you've settled. That evening, over takeout Thai food, we talk about everything except my family. Jessica updates me on her job as a social worker, her recent breakup with a man who couldn't handle dating someone smarter than him, and her ongoing battle with her cactus garden. I kill every plant I touch except cacti, she admits, gesturing toward the windowsill lined with small potted succulents. Turns out I'm better with things that don't need constant attention. The irony isn't lost on either of us. Later, alone in the guest room, I finally open her gift. Inside the small box lies a smooth river stone, polished to a warm amber color. A note accompanies it, for strength. Grandma always said river stones carry the patience of water. They know that persistence, not force, shapes the world. I hold the stone until it warms in my palm, then place it on the nightstand next to the fresh flowers. My phone vibrates against the nightstand for the 19th time this morning. Dad's number. Again. I count to 10 before silencing it, adding his call to the growing cemetery of voicemails I refuse to resurrect. The first week, their messages held confusion. The second week, concern. Now, in week 3, they've evolved into something darker, manipulation wrapped in parental authority. Rachel Elizabeth Thompson. Dad's latest voicemail thunders through the speaker when I finally check. If you don't return this car immediately, I'll report it stolen. This childish behavior has gone on long enough. The Honda, my asterisk Honda, the one with my name on the title and 8 years of paid-off receipts. I clutch the throw pillow against my stomach, swallowing the acid that rises in my throat. Mom's message follows. The doctor says my blood pressure is dangerously high because of the stress you're causing. Is that what you want? For me to end up in the hospital because you're being selfish? I delete them both without responding, though my finger hovers over the screen longer than I care to admit. Jessica finds me in the kitchen an hour later, staring at an email I've rewritten 18 times. Still working on that transfer request? She asks, pouring herself coffee. I keep second-guessing myself. I close the laptop. What if I'm overreacting? What if I'm being too sensitive? Jessica sits across from me, her expression serious. Rachel, I watched your family dynamics for 4 years in college. You're not overreacting. You're finally reacting appropriately. She reaches across the table and opens my laptop. Send it. The worst they can say is no, and then you'll know. But my guess, they'll say yes. Good architects are hard to find. Her confidence in me feels foreign and wonderful. I take a breath and click send before I can overthink it again. The reply comes 3 hours later. Transfer approved effective immediately. Welcome to our Austin office, Ms. Thompson. Just like that, as if I've always been capable of creating my own path. You got it, Jessica appears in the doorway, reading my expression. Her dark curls frame a face lit with genuine happiness for me. The concept still feels foreign, someone celebrating my accomplishments without making them about themselves. I start next Monday. I can hardly believe the words coming out of my mouth. Already called my friend Carmen from book club. She manages apartments in South Austin. Rent control, safe building, 15-minute bike ride to your new office. You didn't have to. I wanted to. She cuts me off, dropping onto the couch beside me. Friends help friends, no strings attached. Novel concept for you, I know. The words hit their mark. No strings, no obligations, no scorekeeping. The tears I've been holding back for 3 weeks threaten to break through. I made you an appointment too, she adds, sliding a business card onto my laptop. Dr. Sullivan, Thursday at 3. The card reads, Patricia Sullivan, Ph.D., Family Systems Therapy. I'm not crazy, I whisper. No, Jessica agrees, but you've been carrying something heavy for a very long time. It might help to put it down somewhere safe. On Thursday afternoon, Dr. Sullivan's office smells like lavender and old books. She wears wire-rimmed glasses and practical shoes that make no sound on the carpet. She doesn't rush to fill silences, just waits while I struggle to form words that have never been spoken aloud. Favoritism, I finally say, the word hanging between us like a newly discovered planet. My entire life. And how did that make you feel? She asks. Like I was worth exactly $2, I answer. The session lasts 50 minutes, but it feels like both an eternity and an instant. Dr. Sullivan gives me homework. Keep a journal. Write down one memory each day where you felt diminished. Don't analyze it, just record it. That night, I write about my 16th birthday. While Marcus got a new guitar and amplifier for his 15th, I received a calculator and a lecture about fiscal responsibility. You'll thank us when you're managing a budget, Mom had said, as if financial literacy was a consolation prize for not being loved enough. The apartment Carmen shows me is small, 700 square feet with a kitchenette barely wide enough for a refrigerator. But the windows face west, catching afternoon sunshine that spills across hardwood floors worn smooth by decades of residence. It's mine by evening. I buy a futon, a lamp, and a small desk. Nothing more. The emptiness feels intentional rather than impoverished. Space to grow into. My first week at the Austin office passes in a blur of introductions, project briefings, and learning new systems. But there's something different here. People actually listen when I speak in meetings. My ideas are considered, debated, implemented. No one knows about my family history or expects me to fade into the background. Thompson, my new supervisor, David Chen, calls out Friday afternoon. That sustainable housing proposal you drafted? The client loves it. They want to move forward immediately. The validation hits me like warm sunlight after months in shadow. This is what being valued feels like. Jessica drags me to a community art center the following Saturday. Pottery class, she announces. You need something that isn't work or therapy. I protest until my hands sink into cool clay, feeling it yield and resist simultaneously. The instructor, a woman with gray hair and paint-splattered overalls, stands behind me. Don't force it, she murmurs. Listen to what it wants to become. My fingers tremble as they shape something from nothing. By class end, I've created a small, imperfect bowl with uneven edges. It's hideous and beautiful and entirely mine. Walking home, I cradle the wrapped bowl like precious cargo. I made this, I tell Jessica, as if the concept is revolutionary. You did, she bumps my shoulder with hers. With your own two hands, no help from anyone who doesn't believe in you. The first video call comes 5 weeks after Christmas. I answer on the fourth ring, steeling myself against the familiar surge of guilt their faces trigger. Where have you been? Dad demands immediately. His face fills the screen, red with indignation. Your mother has been worried sick. Behind him, Mom dabs at eyes that remain strategically dry. Austin, I answer calmly. I transferred offices. Without discussing it with us first? Mom interjects, pushing into frame. How could you be so inconsiderate? The old pull tugs at my chest. Apologize, placate, make it right. But Dr. Sullivan's words echo. Your feelings are valid. Their reactions belong to them, not you. I needed space, I say instead. Space from what? Dad barks. From family, from responsibility, from growing up. From feeling invisible, I reply, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. From being valued less than Marcus. From trying to earn love that should have been freely given. Mom's tears flow instantly, right on cue. How can you say such hurtful things? We've always loved you both equally. I'm not responsible for your feelings anymore, I tell her. The words feel like stones I've been carrying in my mouth for years, finally released. I'm responsible for mine. Dad slams his palm against the table. This conversation is over until you're ready to apologize. Then I guess we're done talking, I answer and end the call. The silence that follows feels both terrifying and liberating. For 31 years, I've been afraid of their disapproval. Now that I've faced it directly, it feels smaller than expected. Manageable. Jessica finds me on the balcony an hour later, staring at the Austin skyline. How do you feel? She asks, settling into the chair beside me. Free, I answer, surprising myself. Terrified but free. In the days that follow, the rumors reach me through LinkedIn messages and texts from former colleagues. According to family lore, I've had a mental breakdown. I'm living in squalor. I've joined a cult. I'm dating someone inappropriate. The stories grow more elaborate with each retelling. Marcus's Instagram shows him looking concerned in carefully filtered photos, captioned with vague references to family heartbreak and praying for those struggling with mental health. The comments section fills with friends offering support for his difficult situation. My new colleagues know nothing of this narrative. They see only my work, the precision of my calculations, the innovation in my designs, the projects completed ahead of schedule. When Marcus shows up unannounced at the office reception 2 weeks later, Jessica happens to be dropping off lunch. She's in a meeting, Jessica informs him coolly. and she'll remain in meetings indefinitely for uninvited visitors. I watch from the conference room window as he paces the parking lot for 20 minutes before giving up. How did you know to come by? I ask Jessica later. Carmen's building has good security cameras. She saw him asking about your apartment and called me? Jessica shrugs. Network of friends beats family manipulation every time. Dr. Sullivan suggests I join her Thursday evening group therapy session. You might benefit from hearing others' experiences with family estrangement, she says. Sometimes healing happens faster in community. The first meeting takes place in a church basement that smells of coffee and old hymnals. 8 strangers connected by similar wounds, ages ranging from early 20s to late 60s. The common thread: families that love conditionally. Family doesn't get a pass just because they're blood, says Robert, a 55-year-old teacher who hasn't spoken to his parents in 15 years. Love without respect isn't love, it's possession. The words settle in my chest like truth. Sarah, a young woman roughly my age, nods vigorously. My therapist asked me once, if this person wasn't related to you, would you choose to have them in your life? The answer was immediately no. Each story resonates with familiar themes: golden children and scapegoats, financial manipulation, emotional blackmail, the exhaustion of always being the mature one. But also, the relief of stepping away, the peace found in chosen family, the slow process of rebuilding self-worth. It gets easier, promises Margaret, who's been estranged from her siblings for 20 years. The guilt fades, the fear of being alone, that fades too, because you realize you were already alone in that family. At least now you're alone with dignity. 6 months after Christmas, my apartment has transformed. Pottery lines the windowsills, each piece more refined than the last. A proper bed has replaced the futon. The promotion to senior architect came with a raise that ended any lingering financial anxiety. On my bookshelf sits the plastic piggy bank. I've filled it with crisp $2 bills, one for each week of freedom, not as punishment but as a reminder. Sometimes the smallest betrayals reveal the largest truths. The first holiday season approaches with both dread and relief. No presents to buy that won't be appreciated. No performances to maintain. No diminishment to endure. Just me in a space I've created, becoming someone I'm finally learning to value. Worth far more than $2. Jessica insists on hosting Thanksgiving at her place, inviting everyone she considers family, biological and chosen. You don't get to spend your first holiday season alone, she declares when I try to decline. The guest list includes Carmen and her wife Alina, Dr. Sullivan and her partner Jennifer, 3 other women from group therapy, and my new colleague David with his husband Mark. 12 people united not by blood but by mutual care and respect. As we sit around Jessica's extended dining table, sharing stories and passing dishes, I realize this is what family should feel like. No one questions my worth or withholds affection as punishment. No one needs me to be anyone other than who I am. 8 months later, the ivory envelope sits on my kitchen counter like a landmine. 4 days it's been there, untouched. Cousin Victoria's wedding invitation. My name in swooping calligraphy, Rachel Thompson. No +1. Just me, expected to return to the fold unaccompanied. So what are you thinking? Dr. Sullivan asks during our session, her office chair creaking as she leans forward. I trace the edge of the armrest, counting the brass tacks one by one. I'm going. Her eyebrows rise slightly. That's a change from last week. On my terms, I add quickly. I've booked a room at the Marriott 6 blocks from the venue. Dad called 3 times insisting I stay at their rental house with everyone else. And what did you say? Nothing, I smile, remembering the satisfaction of letting his voicemail fill with increasingly desperate messages. The boundary is the message. 8 months of therapy has taught me the vocabulary of self-protection. 8 months since I drove away from Denver on Christmas morning. 8 months of rebuilding myself, one therapy session, one pottery class, one peaceful evening at a time. During our session, my phone buzzes. Marcus, the 4th text today. Can't wait to see you next weekend. We need sibling time before the wedding madness. I slide the phone back into my purse without responding. Your brother again, Dr. Sullivan notices. Suddenly we're best friends. I laugh, but it comes out hollow. He never texted this much when we lived in the same state. What do you think he wants? A ride from the airport. Money. The old Rachel who carried his emotional baggage along with his actual luggage. I run my fingers across the fabric swatch on my lap, midnight blue silk for the dress I've commissioned. 3 fittings to ensure it hangs perfectly from my shoulders, skims my curves without apology. The color of power, not reconciliation. They've enlisted flying monkeys, I tell Dr. Sullivan. Uncle Paul called last night about how families need to stick together. Aunt Linda emailed about forgiveness being divine. Even Victoria's fiancé sent a Facebook message. They're coordinating. And how does that make you feel? Before therapy, I would have said fine, always fine. Instead, I trace the physical truth of my emotions, the tightness in my throat, the cold sweat along my hairline, the slight tremor in my fingers. Terrified, I admit, but also ready. Later that evening, I spread the seating chart Victoria accidentally included in a group email across my kitchen table. There I am, placed between my parents, directly across from Marcus. The family tableau restored. I reach for my phone. Victoria, it's Rachel. I have a small request about the seating arrangements. Friday arrives with Austin humidity that makes my dress cling to my skin as I board the plane. The flight to Denver feels both eternal and instant, time warping as we ascend above the landscape of my new life and descend toward the geography of my past. My heartbeat quickens as we begin descent into Denver International Airport. The Rocky Mountains stretch across the horizon, snow-capped peaks that once felt like protection now seeming more like prison walls. The rehearsal dinner venue glows golden against the twilight sky. I stand on the sidewalk, touching the smooth river stone Jessica gave me, now worn smooth from months of carrying it in my pocket. Strength isn't about not feeling fear, she'd said before I left. It's about feeling it and walking forward anyway. I straighten my shoulders and pull open the heavy wooden door. Conversations halt mid-sentence. Heads turn, my mother's hand flies to her throat, my father's drink pauses halfway to his lips. I've changed. The Rachel who fled at Christmas was a shadow, apologizing for taking up space. This woman in tailored black pants, emerald silk blouse, and heels that announce each step with authority is solid, present. The silver earrings catch the light as I scan the room, nodding acknowledgments without rushing toward anyone. Marcus approaches first, arms outstretched, but something is different. The designer watch is gone, the perfectly styled hair has grown out unevenly. His smile seems strained rather than entitled. You look incredible, he says, embracing me briefly. Thank you, I step back, maintaining the space between us. How's the Mercedes treating you? His eyes dart away. I had to sell it, got a used Honda, more practical, you know. Beyond his shoulder, I spot my parents huddled with Aunt Martha. Mom dabs at her eyes with a cocktail napkin. Dad's shoulders slump forward in a posture I've never seen before. Cousin Tara appears at my elbow, wine glass in hand. God, am I glad you're here, she whispers. You wouldn't believe the drama since Christmas. Oh, your parents are selling the house. She leans closer. Medical bills, they say, but everyone knows they've been floating Marcus for years. Reality finally caught up. Before I can respond, a waiter circulates with champagne. I take a glass, watching the bubbles rise and burst against the surface. Just like family stories, what rises eventually pops. Uncle Simon approaches, clasping my free hand. You're looking well, Rachel. That job in Austin must agree with you. Senior architect now, I say, the words still tasting new on my tongue. His eyes widen. No kidding, that's fantastic. More relatives orbit toward me throughout the evening. Cousin Michael confesses he always noticed how differently I was treated. Aunt Martha hugs me too tightly, whispering, Your father lost his job 6 months ago. Your mother's been seeing a therapist. I absorb each revelation with the strange detachment of someone watching waves break against a shore from which they've retreated to higher ground. My father corners me during cocktail hour, bourbon heavy on his breath. Family sticks together, Rachel. His voice carries the familiar weight of authority, but something essential has crumbled beneath it. No matter what. Does it, Dad? I meet his gaze without flinching. Or do some family members stick together while others get pushed aside? His face reddens. We've always supported you. $2 in a piggy bank. The words come out softer than I expected, but they land with precision. That was your definition of support. He opens his mouth, closes it, then walks away. In the ladies' room, my mother appears beside me at the sink, eyes swimming with tears. We miss you so much, she says, reaching for my hand. I continue washing my hands, the soap slippery between my fingers. I miss who I thought you were too. Back in the main room, Marcus pulls me onto the terrace. The evening air carries the scent of roses from the garden below. The Merceds got repossessed, he blurts out. I'm drowning in debt. Music production work dried up. Dad can't help anymore. His voice cracks. I don't know how to do this, Rachel. I never learned how to stand on my own. The confession hangs between us. 8 months ago, I would have immediately offered solutions, money, a place to stay. The old Rachel would have added this burden to her collection. Instead, I place my hand gently on his arm. That sounds really hard, Marcus. I feel compassion without responsibility, a distinction that took months of therapy to learn. I'm sorry you're going through that. His eyes widen slightly at my response, compassion without rescue. I can help you make a budget, I offer, but I can't fix this for you. Over his shoulder, I see Victoria in her pre-wedding glow, surrounded by bridesmaids. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges. But tonight, standing on this terrace with the weight of family expectations sliding off my shoulders like water, I realize I'm no longer afraid. I am the woman who walked away from a lifetime of diminishment, who built a life from the foundation up. Whatever comes next, I'll face it standing firmly on the ground of my own making. The next morning, I stand in the bridal suite of the Four Seasons Denver, watching as my cousin Victoria transforms from nervous bride to radiant woman. The morning sun pours through tall windows, casting everything in a gentle golden light that feels at odds with the storm brewing in my chest. Rachel, your parents are looking for you, Aunt Martha whispers, her fingers gentle on my forearm. They're in the library, said it's urgent. I knew this moment was coming. 8 months since I walked out of their Denver home, leaving nothing but a note and a lifetime of resentment behind. Thanks, Martha. My voice sounds calmer than I feel. I'll find them after I help Victoria with her train. Martha's eyes soften. They mention something about a family emergency before the ceremony. Of course they did. The library door feels heavier than physics should allow as I push it open 40 minutes later. Mom sits ramrod straight in a wingback chair, tissues already clutched in her hand. Dad paces by the fireplace, his movements sharp and contained. Marcus stands by the window, wearing a rental tux that doesn't quite fit, though the repossessed Mercedes is nowhere to be seen in the parking lot below. Rachel, thank God. Mom rises, arms outstretched. We need to talk as a family. I remain in the doorway. The ceremony starts in 30 minutes. Sit down, Rachel. Dad gestures to the empty chair positioned to face all three of them, a staged intervention. This can't wait any longer. I close the door behind me but don't move toward the chair. I'm listening. Marcus steps forward. Rachel, this has gone far enough. Dad lost his job 6 months ago. The company downsized, Dad interjects quickly. Budget cuts. Mom's been seeing a therapist for anxiety, Marcus continues. This all started when you left at Christmas. Mom dabs at dry eyes. We're selling the house, moving into a smaller place. The perfect trifecta. Financial crisis, health concerns, and guilt wrapped in one neat package. 8 months ago, I would have crumpled under the weight of their expectations, apologized for something that wasn't my fault, and offered to help fix everything. Today, I walk to the indicated chair, set my purse beside it, and sit with my spine straight. I'm sorry to hear about your job, Dad. And Mom, I'm glad you're getting help for your anxiety. Their faces register confusion at my calm response. Didn't you hear what we said? Marcus's voice rises. They're selling the house because of you. No, I reply evenly. They're selling the house because of choices they made long before I left. I remove a leather portfolio from my purse. I brought something to show you. Mom frowns. We don't have time for. You called this meeting, I interrupt, so we have time. I open the portfolio across my lap. The first page shows two birthday parties side by side, Marcus's elaborate superhero theme with hired entertainers, and my party the same year with a grocery store cake at the kitchen table. Remember these? I flip through pages of Christmas mornings, graduations, and family vacations, where the pattern of favoritism is unmistakable. I spent months compiling evidence of what I always felt but couldn't prove. Dad's face flushes. This is ridiculous. We always treated you kids equally. I pull out a folder of financial documents. My student loans, $89,000 that I'm still paying. Marcus's education, fully funded, including his semester studying music production in Nashville. Marcus shifts uncomfortably. That's not fair. You chose architecture. That was your decision. It was my passion, I correct him, just like music was yours. The difference is, my passion wasn't considered worth investing in. Mom rises, hands trembling. We didn't have the money when you went to college. Things were different by the time Marcus. I have copies of your tax returns from those years, Mom. I cut her off gently but firmly. Dad's promotion came when I was 17. The inheritance from Grandpa arrived before my freshman year. You had the money. You chose not to spend it on me. The room grows uncomfortably quiet as I lay out birthday cards spanning 25 years. The messages to Marcus overflow with effusive love and encouragement. Mine contain practical advice and reminders to work hard. We always knew you'd be fine, Dad finally says, his defensiveness cracking. You were always so capable, so independent. There it is, I lean back in my chair. The truth behind decades of disparity. Being capable doesn't mean I deserved less love. I continue, my voice remaining steady even as heat builds behind my eyes. Being responsible didn't mean I should carry everyone else's burdens while you funded Marcus's dreams. Mom collapses into genuine, not manipulative tears. We never meant to hurt you. Intent doesn't erase impact. I reach into my purse one final time. The plastic piggy bank makes a hollow sound as I place it on the coffee table between us. Dad stares at it, his face cycling through confusion and recognition. What is this supposed to prove? I remove the rubber stopper. Dozens of crisp $2 bills spill out, unusual currency that catches the eye. I've saved a $2 bill for every week since Christmas, I explain. This isn't about money. It's about what you thought I was worth compared to Marcus. Marcus picks up one of the bills, turning it over in his fingers. I never realized how it looked from your side. His voice lacks its usual defensive edge. They never taught me to be independent. Everything was just handed to me. Outside the library, relatives pass by, their voices floating through the heavy door. In minutes, they'll gather to celebrate love and commitment while our family confronts decades of its absence. I don't want apologies, I say, standing and gathering my evidence. I want change. I'll consider reconciliation under 3 conditions: family therapy with all 4 of us, respect for my boundaries, and an acknowledgement that the favoritism was real and harmful. Dad opens his mouth to argue, but Mom places her hand on his arm. We'll do it, she says, surprising us all. Whatever it takes to have you back in our lives. I gather my portfolio and the piggy bank, but leave its contents scattered on the table. Those are yours to keep. A reminder of what happens when you value one child over another. Walking toward the door, I pause with my hand on the knob. I need to take my seat for the ceremony. Jessica is saving me a place. As I step into the hallway, my back straight and heart lighter than it's been in months, I hear Marcus whisper to our parents. She's completely different now. He's right. The woman who left that Christmas morning carrying nothing but grief and resolution is gone. In her place stands someone who finally understands that her worth isn't measured by what others think she deserves, but by what she refuses to accept. The ceremony itself passes in a blur of organ music, flowing white silk, and carefully crafted vows about unconditional love and mutual respect. I sit in the 3rd row with Jessica, who flew in from Austin specifically to support me through this day. How are you holding up? She whispers as Victoria and her new husband kiss to thunderous applause. Better than I expected, I whisper back and realize it's true. During the cocktail hour, relatives approach me with a mixture of curiosity and caution. The family grapevine has been active. Everyone knows about the Christmas incident and my subsequent disappearance, but the details vary wildly depending on who's telling the story. Rachel, cousin Jennifer, practically bounces over, champagne flute in hand. You look absolutely stunning. Austin must really agree with you. It does, I agree, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. How have you been? We fall into easy conversation about her new job, her recent engagement, the usual catching up topics. But I notice she keeps glancing over my shoulder toward where my parents stand with Marcus, all three looking smaller somehow than they did 8 months ago. Can I ask you something? Jennifer leans closer, her voice dropping to confidential levels. What really happened at Christmas? The stories keep changing. I consider how to answer this. 8 months ago, I would have deflected, made excuses, protected the family image even at the cost of my own truth. They gave Marcus a Mercedes, I say simply. They gave me $2 in a plastic piggy bank. Jennifer's eyes widen. You're serious. Dead serious. That was my Christmas gift after spending months buying thoughtful, expensive presents for all of them. Jesus, she stares across the room at my family. No wonder you left. The reception dinner passes more smoothly than expected. Victoria seated me at a table with cousins and college friends, people who knew me before the family dynamics calcified into their current toxic patterns. The conversation flows easily, touching on careers, travel, books, everything except the elephant in the room. During the father-daughter dance, I slip out to the hotel bar for some air and space. The bartender, a woman about my age with kind eyes, pours me a glass of wine without being asked. Rough evening, she asks. Family wedding, I reply, as if that explains everything. She nods knowingly. Those can be the worst, all that forced togetherness and pretending everything's fine. Exactly. I take a sip of wine and feel some of the tension leave my shoulders. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. But you're here, she observes. That takes courage. Or stupidity, the jury's still out. She laughs. I'm betting on courage. The evening winds down without further confrontations. My parents and Marcus seem to be giving me space, perhaps finally understanding that their usual tactics won't work anymore. As guests begin to leave, Victoria approaches me, still glowing in her wedding dress. Thank you for coming, she says, embracing me carefully to avoid wrinkled her gown. I know it wasn't easy. Your family, I tell her, the good kind. She squeezes my hand. I heard about the library conversation. For what it's worth, I think you're incredibly brave. It's about time someone called them out on their behavior. Back in my hotel room, I kick off my heels and sink into the armchair by the window. Denver spreads out below me, city lights twinkling like earthbound stars. My phone shows several missed calls from Jessica, who flew back to Austin after the ceremony. As I call her back. How did it go? She asks immediately. Better than expected, harder than hoped, I say, which earns me a laugh. That's the most honest assessment of a family event I've ever heard. Did they try to guilt you into coming home? Oh, they tried everything. The full manipulation playbook. Financial crisis, health concerns, emotional blackmail. And it didn't work. I surprised myself with how steady my voice sounds. 8 months ago, I would have folded immediately. Tonight, I sat there calmly and told them exactly what I needed from them if they wanted a relationship with me. I'm so proud of you, Jessica says, and I can hear the smile in her voice. What did they say? Mom said they'd do whatever it takes. Dad looked like he'd been slapped with a fish. Marcus actually seemed to have a moment of genuine realization about how his privilege affected me. Think they'll follow through. I consider this, watching a plane's lights blink across the night sky. Honestly, I don't know, but that's not my problem anymore. I've stated my boundaries clearly. What they do with that information is up to them. We talk for another 20 minutes before I finally feel ready for sleep. As I get ready for bed, I catch my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The woman looking back at me is different from the one who left Denver 8 months ago, stronger, clearer, more self-possessed. I did it, I think. I survived returning to the scene of the crime and came out intact. The envelope arrives on a Tuesday afternoon, hand-delivered to my Austin apartment by a courier. Inside, a formal invitation printed on heavy cream cardstock. The Thompson family requests your presence at a family therapy session with Dr. Patricia Brennan, PhD. Saturday, May 15th, 2:00 p.m., Denver Family Counseling Center. Below the formal invitation, a handwritten note from my mother. Rachel, we've been meeting with Dr. Brennan for 2 months now. She says we're not ready to contact you directly yet, but she's agreed to facilitate a family session if you're willing. We understand if you're not ready, but we hope you'll consider it. We have so much work to do, and we can't do it without you. Love, Mom. I stare at the invitation for a long time, turning it over in my hands like a puzzle piece I'm not sure where to place. That evening, I call Dr. Sullivan to discuss it. What's your gut feeling? She asks. Mixed, I admit. Part of me is encouraged that they're taking this seriously enough to go to therapy, but another part of me wonders if this is just another manipulation, a more sophisticated form of the same old patterns. Those are both valid concerns, she agrees. What would you need to feel safe in that environment? I think about this. I'd want to talk to Dr. Brennan first without them there. Get a sense of what they've actually been working on, whether she thinks they're making genuine progress or just going through the motions. That's a very reasonable request. Do you want help crafting that conversation? We spend the rest of the session role-playing different scenarios and developing strategies for protecting my emotional well-being regardless of what I decide. The next day, I call Dr. Brennan's office. This is Rachel Thompson, I tell her receptionist. My family has been seeing Dr. Brennan, and they've invited me to a session. I'd like to speak with her privately first to understand what I'd be walking into. Dr. Brennan calls me back within 2 hours. Rachel, she says, her voice warm but professional. I'm so glad you called. Your family has told me a great deal about you, and I've been hoping we'd have a chance to speak. What kind of work have they been doing? I ask directly. Intensive family systems therapy, she replies. We've been addressing patterns of favoritism, emotional neglect, and enabling behaviors that have developed over decades. Your parents are confronting some very difficult truths about their parenting, and Marcus is learning about the impact of his privileged position within the family dynamic. Are they taking it seriously, or is this just something they're doing to get me to come back? Dr. Brennan pauses thoughtfully. That's a very insightful question, and I appreciate your directness. Initially, I think your parents viewed therapy as a way to fix the situation and get their daughter back. But over the past 2 months, they've begun to understand that the real work is about fundamentally changing how they relate to both their children. And Marcus. Marcus has been the most resistant, which is common for the favored child. But he had a breakthrough last session when he realized that the family's enabling actually prevented him from developing crucial life skills. He started taking responsibility for his financial situation and is looking for steady work instead of waiting for the next big break in music. This sounds promising, but I've learned to be cautious about hope. If I came to a session, what would that look like? We'd start with what we call a truth-telling circle, Dr. Brennan explains. Each person shares their experience of the family dynamics without interruption or rebuttal. Then we work through specific incidents and patterns, with me facilitating to ensure everyone feels heard and safe. What would you need from me to make this productive? Honestly, just your willingness to be present and truthful. You've already done the hard work of establishing boundaries and building your own life. This session would be about seeing if there's a foundation for rebuilding the family relationships on healthier terms. I schedule the session for 3 weeks out, giving myself time to prepare emotionally and practically. Jessica offers to fly to Denver with me for support, but I decide this is something I need to do alone. Dr. Brennan's office is nothing like Dr. Sullivan's cozy bookline space. It's larger, more formal, with a circular seating arrangement that puts everyone on equal footing. When I arrive, my family is already there, looking nervous and smaller than I remember. Rachel, Dr. Brennan greets me warmly. Thank you for coming. This takes tremendous courage. I take the empty chair in the circle, noting how my parents and Marcus seem to shrink slightly in their seats. 3 months of therapy has apparently begun to crack their defensive facades. Before we begin, Dr. Brennan says, I want to establish some ground rules. This is a safe space for truth-telling. Everyone gets to share their experience without interruption. We're not here to relitigate the past, but to understand it so we can build something healthier going forward. She turns to me. Rachel, would you like to start by sharing what the family dynamics felt like from your perspective? I take a deep breath, feeling for Jessica's river stone in my pocket. I felt invisible, I begin, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Not just occasionally, but as a fundamental part of who I was in this family. Marcus was the star, the one whose dreams and needs mattered. I was the supporting character in everyone else's story. I continue for 15 minutes, laying out specific examples and patterns while my family listens in silence. Mom cries quietly. Dad stares at his hands. Marcus looks like he's seeing me clearly for the first time. When I finish, Dr. Brennan nods. Thank you for that honesty. Marcus, would you like to respond? Marcus clears his throat, his voice shaky. I never realized how much space I was taking up. I thought everyone got what I got. I thought you just didn't need as much because you were so strong and independent. But I wasn't naturally independent, I reply. I became independent because I had to, because no one else was going to take care of my needs. I see that now, he says, tears streaming down his face. And I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I never questioned why I got the car and you got the piggy bank. I'm sorry I never stood up for you when they treated you differently. Dad speaks next, his voice hoarse. I told myself I was teaching you responsibility and self-reliance. I convinced myself that giving you less was actually helping you become stronger. He looks up at me for the first time. But the truth is, I was just taking the easy path. You didn't require as much attention or cause as much drama, so I gave my energy to Marcus instead. Mom's confession is the most difficult to hear. I was jealous of you, she whispers. You were so competent, so successful, so together. Marcus needed me, but you seemed like you didn't need anyone. It made me feel less important as a mother. So you made sure I continued not to need you, I observe. She nods, sobbing openly now. I created what I was afraid of. I pushed you away because I was scared you'd leave, and then you did leave because I pushed you away. The session continues for 2 hours, with Dr. Brennan guiding us through specific incidents and patterns. By the end, we're all emotionally drained, but something has shifted. The truth has been spoken aloud, witnessed, and acknowledged. This is just the beginning, Dr. Brennan warns as we prepare to leave. Changing decades of patterns takes time and consistent effort. Rachel, you get to decide how much contact you want during this process, and you get to change your mind at any time. 12 months after that first family therapy session, I sit in my Austin apartment, video calling my family for our weekly check-in. It's Marcus's idea. He's been the most committed to maintaining regular contact and accountability. How's the new job? I ask him. He's been working as a sound engineer at a local recording studio for 6 months now, his first steady employment in years. Good, he says, and I can hear the pride in his voice. Stable. I'm actually saving money for the first time in my adult life. Mom and Dad appear on screen from their new, smaller home. Dad found work as a consultant after 8 months of unemployment, and Mom has been volunteering at a women's shelter while going to individual therapy. We got your housewarming gift, Mom says, gesturing to something off camera. The pottery set is beautiful. Did you make all of it? Every piece, I confirm. It took me 3 months to complete, a full dinner service for 4, glazed in warm earth tones. My way of saying that I was willing to invest in their future together, cautiously but genuinely. How's the new project going? Dad asks, referring to the sustainable housing development I'm leading for the city of Austin. Challenging but rewarding. We're breaking ground next month. These weekly calls are part of the structure we've built together in family therapy. We're still meeting with Dr. Brennan monthly, working through decades of dysfunction one session at a time. It's slow, messy work, but it's work we're all committed to doing. The biggest change is in how they respond to my successes. When I won a design award last month, all 3 of them called to congratulate me. separately and genuinely, without making it about themselves or comparing it to Marcus's achievements. Marcus has been the most transformed. Learning to support himself financially forced him to develop skills and self-confidence he'd never needed before. He's still pursuing music, but as a passion rather than a profession, which has actually improved his creativity. I've been thinking, he says near the end of our call, about the piggy bank. We all tense slightly. The piggy bank has become a family symbol, the concrete representation of decades of disparity that we're all still processing. I want to create something to balance it out, not to erase what happened, but to acknowledge it differently. He pauses. I'm learning woodworking in my spare time. I want to make you a proper jewelry box, something that reflects how much you're actually worth to this family. The gesture moves me more than I expected. That would be meaningful, Marcus, thank you. After we hang up, I walk to my balcony overlooking the Austin skyline. Buildings I helped design stand against the sunset, solid and purposeful. In the distance, construction cranes mark the spots where future buildings will rise. My phone buzzes with a text from Jessica. Asterisk dinner tomorrow? That new Thai place on South Lamar. Yes, asterisk I text back, but I'm buying. It's your turn to let someone take care of you. She sends back a laughing emoji and a heart. The river stone sits on my windowsill now, no longer needing to travel in my pocket for comfort. Beside it, the original piggy bank holds a collection of subway tokens, bottle caps, and other small treasures, a reminder transformed from symbol of neglect to symbol of resilience. On Christmas morning, I wake up in my own apartment to sunshine streaming through windows I chose, in a city I selected, surrounded by a life I built entirely from my own choices. The scent of cinnamon coffee fills the air from the pot I programmed to brew at 8 a.m. At 10 a.m., I video call my family for our Christmas morning tradition, a new ritual we created together that honors both connection and boundaries. Merry Christmas, Rachel, they chorus from the screen, gathered in my parents' modest living room. The enormous Christmas tree is gone, replaced by a smaller, more tasteful one that fits their new space and circumstances. Merry Christmas, I reply, holding up my coffee mug in a toast. We open gifts virtually, each of us sharing our presents with the camera. Marcus shows off the professional recording headphones I bought him, an investment in his talent without enabling financial dependence. Mom and Dad unwrap the weekend getaway vouchers I arranged for them, a couple's retreat that includes relationship counseling workshops. Their gifts to me arrive by delivery. A set of architectural drafting tools engraved with my name and Principal Architect, my latest promotion. Not practical items meant to keep me busy, but tools that acknowledge and celebrate my professional achievements. These are beautiful, I tell them, running my fingers over the smooth metal. Thank you. We wanted to get you something that recognized what you've accomplished, Mom says, her voice steady and clear. We're so proud of who you've become. The words land differently than they would have 3 years ago. Then, I would have analyzed them for hidden meaning or conditions. Now, I can receive them as the genuine expression they seem to be. After we hang up, I spend the afternoon with my chosen family. Jessica and her new girlfriend, Carmen, host a potluck Christmas dinner for everyone who doesn't have family nearby, or whose families are too difficult to navigate during holidays. To Rachel, Jessica raises her glass during the toast, who taught us all that you can love your family and protect yourself at the same time. And to choosing each other, adds David from my office, who's become a close friend over the past 2 years. The table erupts in agreement and laughter. Later that evening, as guests help clean up and gradually head home, I find myself on Jessica's balcony, looking out over Austin's holiday lights. Regrets? Jessica asks, joining me with 2 cups of tea. I consider the question seriously. About leaving Denver that Christmas morning? No. About the lost years when I could have stood up for myself earlier? Sometimes. About the relationship with my family now? No. It's a different relationship than most people have with their parents and siblings, she observes. But it's honest, I reply. We all know exactly where we stand. There are boundaries and accountability. They have to earn my trust and presence instead of assuming they're entitled to it. And are they earning it? I think about the weekly calls, the family therapy sessions, the way Marcus now asks about my life before talking about his own, the way my parents have learned to celebrate my successes without comparisons or conditions. Slowly but genuinely, yes. My phone buzzes with a text from Marcus. Thank you for giving us the chance to try again. I know we don't deserve it, but I'm grateful every day that you're willing to rebuild with us. I show the text to Jessica, who smiles. 3 years ago, could you have imagined receiving a message like that from him? 3 years ago, I couldn't imagine most of my life now, I admit. The apartment, the career success, the friend group, the sense of actually being worth something. You were always worth something, Jessica corrects gently. You just finally learned to see it. 5 years after the Christmas morning that changed everything, I stand in the Denver Art Museum at the opening of Marcus's first solo exhibition. The invitation in my hand reads, Musical Landscapes, Sound Visualizations by Marcus Thompson. He's found his artistic voice by combining his music production skills with visual art, creating installations that translate sound into color and movement. It's innovative, meaningful work that reflects the maturity he's gained through years of supporting himself and attending therapy. Can you believe this? He asks, appearing at my elbow with 2 glasses of wine. He's wearing a simple black suit that he bought with his own money, his hair styled professionally but not obsessively. The Marcus who demanded attention has evolved into a man who commands respect through his work. I absolutely can believe it, I tell him honestly. This is what happens when you develop your talent through discipline instead of expecting it to be handed to you. He smiles ruefully. It only took me until I was 34 to figure that out. Better late than never. Mom and Dad arrive halfway through the evening, looking genuinely proud but not possessive of Marcus's success. They've learned to celebrate his achievements without making them about their own parenting or comparing them to my career. Rachel, Dad approaches me with a hesitant smile. Thank you for being here. It means the world to Marcus and to us. I'm proud of him, I say simply, and I'm proud of all the work you've all done to get here. The family therapy sessions ended 2 years ago, not because we'd finished the work, but because we'd learned the tools to continue it independently. We still have difficult conversations and moments of backsliding into old patterns, but now we have the vocabulary and commitment to address them directly. As the evening winds down, Marcus pulls me aside. I have something for you, he says, leading me to a corner where a medium-sized canvas hangs, covered by a cloth. This isn't part of the exhibition, it's personal. He pulls away the cloth to reveal a sound visualization unlike any of the others. Where his other pieces are abstract swirls of color, this one shows 2 distinct musical lines, one steady and strong, the other chaotic and demanding. As the piece progresses, the chaotic line gradually learns harmony, while the steady line remains constant but becomes more vibrant. It's us, he explains quietly. The sound of our relationship over the past 5 years. Your voice has always been there, consistent and strong, even when mine was all over the place. But in therapy, I started learning to harmonize instead of compete. The piece is beautiful and deeply moving, an artistic representation of the work we've all done to rebuild our family relationships. I'll treasure this, I tell him, meaning every word. There's a plaque, he points to a small brass plate at the bottom of the frame. For Rachel, who taught me the difference between being heard and being worth hearing, with love and gratitude for your patience with my learning curve. M. 7 years later. Today, I sit in the same position where this story began, cross-legged on a hardwood floor on Christmas morning. But now it's my floor, in my house that I bought with my own money, surrounded by wrapping paper from gifts I chose to give and receive. Jessica and Carmen are here with their 2-year-old daughter, Luna, who calls me Auntie Rachel, and toddles over with a wooden block she wants me to build with. David and his husband Mark have driven down from Houston with their new puppy. Dr. Sullivan, who's become a friend as well as a former therapist, brings homemade cookies and stories from her travels. At noon, we video call my family in Denver, where they're celebrating with Aunt Martha and some cousins. The conversation flows easily, filled with genuine questions about each other's lives and shared laughter over Luna's attempts to steal cookies through the camera. How's the new project coming? Marcus asks, referring to the affordable housing development I'm designing for Austin's East Side. Challenging and rewarding, I reply. We're trying to balance sustainability with cost effectiveness while creating spaces that actually feel like homes rather than warehouses. The photos you sent look incredible, Mom adds. The community garden spaces between the buildings are such a thoughtful touch. This is how normal families talk, I realize, with genuine interest in each other's lives, without competition or comparison, with celebration instead of envy. After we hang up, Jessica finds me in the kitchen loading the dishwasher. You're smiling, she observes. Am I? I touch my face, surprised. You get this specific smile when you video call your family now. It's different from 7 years ago. 7 years ago, I couldn't have imagined having a relationship with them at all. I muse, rinsing a plate. The idea that we could all be in the same virtual space without drama or manipulation would have seemed impossible. What changed? I consider the question, watching soap bubbles swirl down the drain. I changed, I say finally. I stopped trying to earn their love and started requiring their respect. Once I knew I could live without them, I could choose to live with them on my terms. That evening, after everyone has gone home and the house is quiet, I walk through the rooms I've filled with pottery I've made, art I've chosen, furniture I've saved for and purchased thoughtfully. Every item reflects decisions I made based on my own preferences, needs, and values. In my study, architectural drawings cover the drafting table, plans for buildings that will house families, provide workspace for small businesses, create community gathering spots. Structures that will outlast their creator, built on foundations of careful planning and sustainable design. On the bookshelf, the original piggy bank sits next to Marcus's wooden jewelry box, a matched set that tells the full story of our family's evolution. The piggy bank, still filled with $2 bills, reminds me never to settle for being undervalued. The jewelry box, crafted with skill and love over many months, represents the relationship we've built through honest work and mutual commitment. My phone buzzes with a text from Marcus. Merry Christmas, sis. Thank you for not giving up on us completely. Thank you for showing us what accountability looks like. Thank you for teaching us that love isn't enough without respect. I text back, Merry Christmas. Thank you for doing the work to become someone I actually enjoy having in my life. His response comes immediately. Best Christmas gift ever, a sister who tells me the truth. Outside my window, Austin twinkles in the darkness. A city full of people building lives, pursuing dreams, creating families from both blood and choice. Somewhere in the city are others who walked away from families that diminished them, others who are learning that their worth isn't determined by other people's capacity to see it. Tomorrow, I'll return to work on designs that will shelter people for decades to come. I'll continue building a life that reflects my values and choices. I'll maintain relationships that require mutual effort and respect. But tonight, I sit in the life I created after walking away from the life that was slowly killing my spirit. The woman who left Denver 7 years ago carrying nothing but grief and determination has become someone who knows her own worth, who builds rather than begs, who chooses connection without sacrificing herself. Worth far more than $2, worth everything I've worked to become. The plastic piggy bank catches the lamplight, transformed from symbol of neglect into reminder of resilience. Sometimes the smallest betrayals reveal the largest truths about what we will and won't accept. A decade has passed since that pivotal Christmas morning when I chose myself over family dysfunction. Today, I stand before a full-length mirror in my bedroom, adjusting the collar of a navy blazer. At 41, I carry myself differently than the woman who once sat cross-legged on her parents' floor, accepting scraps of affection disguised as gifts. The mirror reflects someone who has learned to take up space unapologetically. You ready for this? Jessica asks from the doorway. She's driven over from her house across town, where she lives with Carmen and their now 12-year-old Luna, who's become the honorary niece I never expected to have. As ready as anyone can be for their first TED Talk, I reply, smoothing my hair one final time. The topic of my presentation: building on solid ground, architecture, family systems, and the structures that support us. It's a talk that weaves together my professional expertise in sustainable design with the personal journey of reconstructing relationships from the foundation up. Your parents and Marcus will be watching the live stream, Jessica reminds me, along with about half of Austin from what I hear. The relationship with my family has continued to evolve over the decade. We're not the close-knit unit that holiday movies celebrate, but we've become something perhaps more valuable. A group of people who choose to stay connected because we've learned to respect each other's boundaries and celebrate each other's growth. Marcus now runs his own sound design company, creating audio landscapes for museums and public spaces. His work requires the technical precision he inherited from Dad, combined with the artistic vision that Mom always encouraged, but channeled through the self-discipline he had to develop himself. He's been in a stable relationship for 3 years with another artist who challenges him intellectually and supports his growth. Mom and Dad, now in their 70s, have become advocates for family therapy in their retirement community. Mom volunteers with estranged families, using her own experience to help parents understand how favoritism damages all their children, not just the ones who seem to get less attention. Dad has written a small book about his journey from enabler to accountable parent, donating all proceeds to family counseling services. The drive to the conference center passes through downtown Austin, where two of my architectural projects stand as permanent parts of the city's landscape. The affordable housing complex, now 5 years old, has won multiple awards for sustainable design and community integration. The community center, completed just last year, serves as a model for public spaces that bring diverse populations together. Nervous? Jessica asks as we pull into the parking lot. Excited, I realize, surprising myself. I've spent so many years building things, buildings, relationships, a life, and now I get to talk about the blueprints. The green room buzzes with other speakers, all experts in their fields, all carrying stories of transformation and insight. The TED curator, a woman named Maria who's been incredibly supportive throughout the preparation process, approaches with a warm smile. Rachel, you look fantastic. How are you feeling? Ready to share what I've learned about the difference between structures that constrain and structures that support, I reply. 20 minutes later, I walk onto the stage to face an audience of 800 people. The lights prevent me from seeing individual faces, but I know Jessica is out there, along with colleagues from my firm, former therapy group members who have become lifelong friends, and dozens of others whose lives have intersected with mine in meaningful ways. I begin with the piggy bank story. 10 years ago, I received a Christmas gift that changed my life, I say, holding up a photo of the original plastic bank. Not because of what it contained, but because of what it represented about the structures we build, and sometimes must tear down, in order to create something sustainable. I talk about the architecture of families, about load-bearing walls and foundations, about the difference between renovation and complete reconstruction. I share the moment when I realized that some buildings need to be demolished before anything healthy can be built on their site. The hardest part, I tell the audience, wasn't walking away from a family structure that was damaging me. The hardest part was believing I deserved something better. The presentation flows from personal narrative into professional insight, exploring how the same principles that govern sustainable architecture apply to sustainable relationships. Strong foundations, quality materials, regular maintenance, and the wisdom to know when structural problems require professional intervention. 7 years of family therapy taught me that love without respect is like a beautiful building with a cracked foundation, I continue. It might look impressive from the outside, but it's not safe to inhabit long-term. I conclude with photos of my current life. The house I designed and built for myself, the family relationships I've reconstructed on terms of mutual respect, the professional work that reflects my values, the chosen family that supplements my biological one. Today, that plastic piggy bank sits on my shelf next to a hand-carved jewelry box my brother made for me after 2 years of therapy. I finish. Together, they represent the full story. Where we started, how far we've traveled, and what becomes possible when we're willing to do the hard work of building something better. The applause is immediate and sustained. As I leave the stage, I feel the weight of a decade's worth of growth, struggle, and intentional choices that led to this moment. At the post-talk reception, dozens of people approach to share their own stories. A young woman, maybe 25, tells me about walking away from parents who used financial control to manipulate her choices. An older man, perhaps 60, describes ending contact with a sibling whose behavior had become toxic to his marriage and children. Your talk gave me permission to believe that I'm not selfish for protecting myself, says a middle-aged woman whose parents favor her brother despite his history of addiction and financial irresponsibility. Each conversation reinforces what I've learned. Family dysfunction is far more common than we admit, and the courage to demand better treatment is far more rare than it should be. Jessica appears at my elbow as the reception begins to wind down. Your phone has been buzzing nonstop, she says, handing me my device. 53 messages. Text after text from people who watched the live stream, colleagues who are proud of my presentation, friends who are sharing their own family struggles, and former therapy group members who recognize their own journeys in my words. But the message that matters most comes from Marcus. Watched your talk with mom and dad. We're all crying, good tears, proud tears. Thank you for telling our story with such honesty and grace. You've helped more people than you'll ever know, and you've shown us what real leadership looks like. I'm honored to be your brother. Dad's message follows. Your presentation was brilliant and brave. I'm sorry it took me so many years to see what an extraordinary person you've always been. Thank you for giving us the chance to earn our place in your life instead of just assuming we deserved it. Mom's text is the longest. I watched your talk twice. The first time, I cried for all the years we wasted not seeing you clearly. The second time, I cried with gratitude that you found the strength to demand better from us. You saved our family by refusing to accept the dysfunction. I'm proud of the woman you've become and grateful for the teacher you've been to all of us. That evening, I returned to my house, a custom home I designed with Jessica's input and built with the help of contractors who have become friends. The architecture reflects everything I've learned about creating spaces that nurture rather than constrain. Open floor plans that allow for both solitude and connection, large windows that bring in natural light, materials chosen for beauty and sustainability, rooms that can adapt to changing needs over time. I pour myself a glass of wine and step onto the back patio, where my pottery studio overlooks the garden I've cultivated over 7 years. The kiln stands ready for tomorrow's firing, filled with pieces I'll give as gifts or keep as reminders of what my hands can create when I give them space to work. My phone rings. It's Luna, now 12 and passionate about environmental science, calling from Jessica's house. Auntie Rachel, I watched your talk with Mom and Mom Carmen. You were amazing. Thank you, sweetheart. How's your science project coming along? Really good. I'm designing a sustainable playground for my school, using some of the principles you taught me about eco-friendly construction. This is perhaps the greatest measure of success. That the next generation sees sustainability and healthy boundaries as normal, that Luna grows up understanding she deserves respect and kindness from everyone in her life, including family. We talk for 20 minutes about her project, her school friends, her upcoming soccer tournament. Normal aunt-niece conversation that requires nothing from me except genuine interest and care. After we hang up, I sit in my garden chair, surrounded by the life I've built through intentional choices and sustained effort. The path from that Christmas morning, 10 years ago to this moment, hasn't been straight or easy, but it's been mine. Tomorrow, I'll return to work on the new library project, designing spaces where knowledge and community intersect. Next weekend, I'll drive to Denver for Aunt Martha's 80th birthday, where I'll see my family in the context of our extended relatives who have watched our decade-long journey with interest and occasional bewilderment. The plastic piggy bank still sits on my bookshelf, now accompanied by Marcus's jewelry box, photos from family therapy graduations, awards for architectural innovation, pottery pieces that represent thousands of hours of meditative creation, and books that have guided my understanding of relationships, trauma recovery, and sustainable design. But it's no longer a symbol of what I lacked. Now it represents what I found: the courage to value myself enough to demand better, the strength to rebuild relationships on terms of mutual respect, the wisdom to know that sometimes the greatest act of love is setting boundaries that protect everyone involved. As the sun sets over Austin, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple, I reflect on the decade that transformed not just my relationship with my family, but my understanding of what family can be. Blood creates relatives, but intention and effort create family. Some of my deepest family bonds are with people I chose rather than people I share DNA with, and some of my most meaningful growth has come from learning to have healthy relationships with my biological family. The woman who left Denver 10 years ago carrying nothing but a suitcase and broken expectations could never have imagined this life. Professionally successful, personally fulfilled, surrounded by people who see and celebrate who she actually is rather than who they need her to be. Worth far more than $2, worth exactly what she's always been worth, but now she knows it. In the distance, construction lights illuminate the site of my newest project, a mixed-use development that will provide affordable housing, retail space, and community gathering areas. Another structure built on solid foundation, designed to serve the people who will call it home for decades to come. Some buildings, like some families, need to be torn down and rebuilt from the ground up. Others can be renovated, strengthened, and adapted for new purposes. The wisdom lies in knowing the difference, having the skills to do either kind of work, and understanding that both approaches require patience, expertise, and a commitment to creating something better than what existed before. The plastic piggy bank will always remind me of where I started. Everything else in my life reminds me of how far I've traveled and how much is still possible when you refuse to settle for less than you deserve. 10 years later, the architecture of my life reflects the same principles I bring to my professional work: strong foundations, quality materials, regular maintenance, sustainable design, and the vision to create spaces where life can flourish. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the courage to start over. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give our families is the refusal to participate in systems that diminish anyone involved. And sometimes the greatest gift we can give the world is the example of what becomes possible when we value ourselves enough to build something better. The piggy bank sits on my shelf, transformed from symbol of neglect into reminder of resilience, proof that even the smallest betrayals can become the foundation for the largest transformations. Worth celebrating, worth protecting, worth everything it took to get here.